a lot of people can say their best ideas come when they're waking up or going to sleep, or, you know, at certain times of the day when you don't expect it. I also have that. We're all human. But also I understand that it can happen if you're practically doing something. It's a job for me as well. It's not a romantic pastime. It's, you know, that is part of it, you could say, in some ways, but it's a very practical thing, you know. So I think as a human being, if you work, then things come to you. That's also something that I've experienced anyway. I'm Nick Renshaw. I'm a British by origin, lived in Amsterdam for 30 years approximately. Visual artist, sculptor, ceramicist, some teaching, some writing, and that's the basis of my work. I think the process of being an artist it works two ways for me. There's something that you're trying to explain or describe or show, but there's also something that you're trying to understand as well. So I think it's a two-way process, and for me that's an ever-continuing position. You know, that's something that I think is quite an important understanding, let's say, as an artist in any form. As well as working, let's say, with a very physical, basic material, you could say the most basic material. I mean, ceramics has been used as a visual arts material for literally thousands of years, pieces that still exist. And the fact that I'm working with a material that has such a reach back into history, but is something which is still very actual, very specific to now, I think is also something I find really interesting. Partly maybe to do with me trying to search my own history, but also because I want to understand those things. I think it's important to understand yourself, to understand one's past and everything around that. A lot of my ideas actually originate from much earlier in my life. There are things that influence me now, and I've become the person I am, you know, because of various things in recent years, but you could say the origin of my ideas date back much earlier to, you know, whether it's childhood or adolescence or the first periods of education. And I almost feel those things are still a basis for many of the ways that I work now, actually. I mean, the influences I had were probably, you know, whether it was to do with, like, I don't know, watching TV at that particular time, things that I remember that influence you there, I see those now in things that I'm making. You know, that's still a basis for a lot of the works that I do as well. Even though I'm obviously very aware of things around me now, that's probably not so direct. The things that I had when I was, you know, growing up or developing, they were things that really directly influence you, and I think they stay for a long time as well. You can add things to that, the material adds things to that, but those things are still quite important to me. I think, maybe I said it before, that actually working with such a physical material, it's almost like I feel as though I'm back at my roots, back at the real basis of being a human being somehow. You know, that's how it feels to me when I'm working quite often. And that's, I think, probably why I still like using this material. It sort of crosses the boundaries from that very basic inspiration to something which is, you know, something which hopefully is inspiring and touches people. I find that really interesting, actually. So. The work definitely controls a lot of what you're doing, I think. Particularly for me, anyway. It feels like that's a natural progression. If I'm making something, then I will see and understand something during the process, and that will, let's say, dictate where I go next with it. That will almost lead me, not always, but that will often happen, just because something will happen in the process. Particularly in ceramics, when you're firing, you don't always know what's going to happen. So you have to be quite open to that. I don't want things to be as perfect as the world around us. I think that's something that I think as a human being you bring to a work. It's not a machine making it. It's not a physical thing that you're out of control with. I mean, it's something that you bring with all of your faults, with all of your skills, with all of your errors, your ideas, and that's a process which leads to something. It's not always as planned as you might want. So I find working with people very energizing, but I think working as an artist, I think is specifically, well, for me at least, it's a very individual practice. That can be quite lonely, but actually that's also quite liberating because you are literally in control of everything, which I find quite important as well. I do like being around colleagues, but when it comes to the actual generating of the work, it's something that I do myself. I think having a community is really important. So the visual arts community is hugely important, whether that's in the ceramic field, the sculpture field, or everything in between. And I think, you know, we can all learn a lot from that, but it's still something that I think is quite a personal endeavor. So yeah, that's a struggle, but that I think is something you've got to accept and you've got to be able to do. I find challenging, but that's also fantastic as well. I think the idea of suffering for your art is a bit cliched, perhaps, but I certainly think people have to bring their own understanding of the world to their art. I think that is something. It's not to say that people who've suffered haven't made great art, because that's obviously the case. We can all name examples of famous artists in all fields who have, you know, quite literally suffered for their art. But I think that has become some kind of cliche, as if that's the only way, and that certainly isn't the only way. It's about projecting your understanding of life, art, philosophy, whatever it is that you're interested in, and visualizing it or projecting that through your chosen medium. I think that's the important thing. That might be understood as suffering in some ways, but you know, it doesn't have to be only that. I think the important thing is a level of understanding of being alive, or understanding being a human, or understanding certain ideas. They're the important things, and putting that across through a chosen medium. In my case, that's ceramic, sculpture, but of course for many people that's a different material. I like to think at this stage in my career that I can understand when I've done something which is good, which is of value for myself, but also of value generally. I think that's something you can become more sure of over the years. I think that's also part of the development and maturing as a person, as an artist. So I like to think that I'm not influenced so much about acceptance in that respect. It's more about making something which is of value and which is good. And that's difficult to say in literal terms, how that comes across in visual terms, but that's something that I've become more sure of. So I'm aware of that being the case, actually. So I think that's an important position to be in, when you understand when something is successful for yourself. It's difficult to know at some point, but that is a really important situation to be in yourself, to be able to know that. And that gives, for me, it gives a lot of certainty about what I'm doing as well, because I can understand when that point is reached, actually. I think that's one of the reasons that I've traveled so much, actually. One of the reasons I've tried to work in as many different places with as many different people in different environments as possible, just because I know that does add a different understanding of the world, not only in terms of the material. That's a really important thing. Seeing how people work with a material or with a different idea in different parts of the world is enlightening. But also because I think it adds something to my own understanding of things. That's maybe the most important reason that I've been trying to develop myself, to try and find a new understanding, to add different layers to my own creative process. I think that's also a challenge now, that a lot of people are perhaps led into an area where they might not normally go if they weren't influenced by things that are maybe in fashion or politically correct, or you know, those kind of areas. I think that can be a danger sometimes, because if you're constantly doing that, then you're doing it, I feel, for somebody else, when I think actually you should be doing it for yourself, in a way. At least that's how I feel myself. So I try not to be influenced too much by those exterior realms, but to try and follow my own instinct to make something. And you know, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But I think if you understand that, and I think if you appreciate at that moment, then I think that's a very important position, you know, and that's quite liberating and quite satisfying, actually.